Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we've got this pretty hefty stack of sources, articles, news clips, financial reports, the works. And our mission, well, it sounds simple, but it's actually profoundly complicated. We're drilling down into the, let's say, spectacular and contradictory reality of the Harry Potter franchise right now in 2025.
Yeah, it's this core paradox, isn't it? That's what jumps out immediately from you've got the Wizarding World IP, the whole universe booming. I mean, commercially, culturally, it's huge. Think new partnerships, the big HBO reboot, everyone's talking about massive sales figures. And this is happening at the exact same time its creator, J.K. Rowling, is facing, well, really intense, sustained attempts at what people call cancellation.
Right, over her views on transgender issues, which are definitely controversial.
Exactly. So it's this collision course, a global economic engine smashing up against powerful social activism.
That sums it up perfectly. And for you listening, we've basically done the legwork, synthesized all this complex stuff into a kind of shortcut. We want to get past the headlines, show you the actual hard data, the sales numbers, the dozens of corporate brand deals, seriously, dozens.
Yeah.
Plus the big new projects and that very personal, very public drama involving the original film cast. So the question we're really tackling today is, looking at the evidence here in 2025, why do these efforts to quote unquote cancel her seem, well, less effective than maybe ever before?
And that's the mission, isn't it? We need to unpack the mechanics of it. Why has this commercial juggernaut proven so impervious, so resistant to the cultural lightning rod attached to its creator? We're looking for measurable proof, Can financial momentum actually absorb, maybe even neutralize this kind of prolonged social pressure? Let's unpack the machine.
Let's do it. We have to start with just the sheer scale. Section 1, the commercial engine of nostalgia. Because really, to get why it's so resilient now, you've got to appreciate the gargantuan size of the foundation it's built on.
Yeah, the foundation metric is the place to start, definitely. It kind of gets lost in all the noise sometimes. Over 600 million Harry Potter books sold worldwide. 600 million.
Wow.
And importantly, the sources stress this isn't some static number from the past. It keeps climbing steadily. You've got endless re-releases, digital versions, new formats, and whole new generations discovering them decades later.
Just pause on that number. 600 million. To give you some perspective, that's like more than double the estimated sales for Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
It puts it up there with the absolute highest selling series ever, like Goosebumps territory.
Yeah.
It's basically a foundational text for, 2, maybe 3 generations now?
Exactly. And that deep root system, that, generational loyalty, it's being very explicitly leveraged right now. The sources are definitely pointing to a spike in interest in 2025, and it feels almost entirely fueled by, nostalgia.
And it's not just passive stuff like licensing a logo. It's active, physical, very modern engagement. Look at the examples in the materials we have. Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
The exhibition, drew huge crowds, sustained crowds in places like Boston just before it closed there in April. People are still paying premium prices for these temporary high-touch experiences. That tells you.
Absolutely. And then there are the theme parks. They're still pulling in steady, sometimes even record-breaking crowds. Plus, the physical shops, the retail side, it's actually expanding. There's a significant detail in the reports. A brand new official shop opened in Chicago just this past April.
Chicago, okay.
Yeah. If the IP was truly, toxic or radioactive, you wouldn't see major global cities giving up prime real estate for new flagships.
Which naturally brings us to J.K. Rowling herself, her personal financial situation, because often activist pressure tries to hit the income source, right? But the picture our sources paint is one of extraordinary financial resilience.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the key shield here.
Oh, it absolutely is. Forbes estimates, and these are 2025 estimates, put her net worth back around the $1 billion mark. Maybe just shy, maybe over, but around there.
$1 billion.
But, net worth is only part of it. The really illuminating detail is her annual income. It comes from this massive, diversified machine, the books, the licensing, all the Potter extensions. Reportedly, it's somewhere between $50 and $100 million annually.
$50 to $100 million a year, just flowing in passively from book sales, licensing fees, all those global things we're about to get into. That kind of annual independent revenue, it makes her pretty much immune to the kind of pressure that might hit, a traditionally employed celebrity or author.
She's financially unassailable. She doesn't need corporate jobs. She doesn't need brand endorsements. She doesn't need government grants. She's not relying on the okay from some corporate board or studio exec who's worried about their stock price dipping because of online chatter. She set up this incredibly diverse revenue engine. It runs more or less on autopilot, which means she never really has to worry about a corporate decision overriding her personal views because, Her income isn't dependent on them in that direct way.
And the source material adds another interesting layer to this, sort of contextualizes her financial power, her philanthropy. It's significant, and it's continuing right alongside all this controversy, including launching the new J.K. Rowling Women's Fund just this May 2025. Reports say she's donated over $200 million over her career.
Right. So her ability to operate this massive financial machine and then direct some of its output philanthropically, it's just not slowing down. The controversy isn't impacting that function.
No, that financial power structure really feels like the bedrock for everything else we're seeing.
It is.
Okay, let's shift gears. Maybe the most fascinating case study in this whole thing, commercially speaking, the video game Hogwarts Legacy. This is where that idea of the boycott really showed its muscle. It's detailed pretty heavily in our source material.
Yeah, this was the ultimate stress test, wasn't it? The launch back in 2023. Critics specifically went after the game. There was a widespread, very organized call for a boycott. And the logic seemed sound right. If you could depress the sales of a major new product, maybe you damage the franchise's bottom line, force Warner Bros. Or someone to react.
But the result was, famously, the exact opposite. Instead of a boycott, it triggered what the sources are calling a buycott. People deliberately buying the game, almost as a statement, either in defiance of the boycott call, or maybe to support Rowling herself, or just to separate the art from the artist.
Yeah.
The purchase itself became loaded.
And the numbers just confirm the complete failure of that boycott effort. The game sold over 34 million units. 34 million.
Wow. Put that in context for us. Is that good?
Good. It's staggering. Absolutely staggering. That kind of unit count puts Hogwarts Legacy not just in the hit category, but makes it like a generational anomaly. It's up there with mega franchises like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Minecraft. It completely smashed all internal sales expectations.
Okay, so incredible context. It was just successful. It was historically, record-breakingly successful globally. And the sources also mentioned the reviews, right? Critics often praise the game itself, the open world, the magic, the immersion, suggesting maybe the desire for just really high-quality content ultimately drove sales more than any political stance for many buyers.
And the long-term implication is just crystal clear, isn't it? The initial backlash didn't diminish the franchise's appeal. If anything, the controversy almost acted like free marketing. Free, targeted marketing to people who felt defensive of the brand or maybe disagreed with the tactics being used against it. By making the game a political football, the activists inadvertently drove engagement among those.
And we know this is the long-term view, because even now, in 2025, the source material points out there are ongoing serious talks about a sequel. So the major publishers, the developers, the people risking hundreds of millions on these things, they looked at that initial controversy and basically decided it was irrelevant to future revenue. The IP proved its strength, its financial strength, when faced with that direct, organized economic pressure.
It's pretty much the definitive commercial proof point. The audience's desire for the wizarding world just transcends the creator's current political profile, at least in terms of sales.
Okay, that leads us perfectly into Section 3, corporate comp. If Hogwarts Legacy was maybe a one-off stress test, the sheer volume and, frankly, the diversity of the brand partnerships we're seeing in 2025, it just demonstrates that the rest of the market has overwhelming faith in the IP staying power.
Yeah, it's almost like an aggressive display of corporate commitment. You've got Warner Bros., Discovery, Global Consumer Products, managing this whole vast licensing empire. And the sources really emphasize the corporation fully committed. Their long-term strategy is locked. It shows they value that guaranteed massive revenue stream far, far more than they fear the potential backlash from what they clearly see as a vocal but ultimately commercially significant.
Let's walk through some of this list, because the breadth is really something. It confirms the market's trust. And critically, remember, all these deals keep channeling royalties directly back to Rowling. Okay, starting with food and beverage. High volume, mainstream stuff.
Take Krispy Kreme. They launched themed donuts, spellbinding flavors just this past August 2020. This isn't some niche little bakery. It's a global chain. They rely on mass appeal, impulse buys. Similarly, Nestle Coffee Mate. Limited edition creamers hitting grocery stores. These deals literally put the wizarding world into millions of people's daily morning, kind of unavoidable IP integration.
Then you move into fashion and apparel. Equally serious commitment there. PUMA, major sportswear giant, released Gryffindor and Slytherin-themed activewear collections back in March 2025. That's athletic gear, performance wear, high visibility. Then you've got Vans doing footwear, lifestyle apparel with the house crests.
And crucially, they're targeting specific demographics too. Lulu and Rue, big name in children's clothing. They're pushing Harry Potter-themed kids' clothes, specifically timed for the big back-to-school season. That shows they're investing in capturing the next generation, locking them in early.
And it goes upscale, too, into hung goods, appealing to adult fans, the ones with disposable income. Pottery Barn, Right. A name you associate with fairly upscale home furnishings. They've got golden egg lamps, themed bedding sets in their 2025 collection. This isn't cheap plastic merch. It's premium stuff, leveraging that deep fan attachment.
And we see Homesick doing scented candles, evoking locations from the series. The market's really capitalizing on the emotional memory, the nostalgia tied to the book.
Okay, now toys and collectibles. This has always been a huge part of the Potter economy. The Lego group, obviously. They're just constantly churning out sets, especially around the annual Back to Hogwarts marketing push. But the commitment from Miniso, that global variety retailer, that's kind of stunning.
Right. This deserves a pause. Miniso. They have an expansive global collection. Over 800 SKUs. That's stock keeping. Across home goods, fashion, toy. 800 distinct Harry Potter products.
800. That's like an entire dedicated store's worth of inventory. Just signals this immense long-term global immovable bet on the IP, not some cautious little marketing test.
Exactly. A commitment like that takes months, maybe years of planning, sourcing, distribution, logistics across continents, all decided long after the Rowling controversy hit the mainstream.
Okay, what else? Beauty and gifting.
Yep. Mad Beauty signed a long-term licensing deal May 2025 for cosmetics and accessories. Pyramid International is pushing posters, mugs, stationery globally. Standard stuff, but again, volume and...
And it's not just physical things either. It's woven into digital life. Snapchat, using Bitmoji for digital lenses. AR experiences with 3D Potter theme. Integrating the IP into how people communicate on social media right now. In 2025, making it part of the modern visual language.
So the inescapable conclusion from all this, these partnerships, they span global markets, they target all age groups, all income levels. They're often timed to big industry events like Brand Licensing Europe, which happens in October. Corporations, big ones, are placing massive ongoing bets on this IP's power to draw consumers. The corporate world has pretty definitively chosen to separate the controversy from the cash register. And those royalties just keep flowing back to Rowling.
That corporate confidence is, a really powerful piece of evidence. Speaking of the future, let's talk about the biggest new chapter coming, the HBO Reboot series. The fact that this massive series, slated for 2027, is deep in development, casting underway. It just confirms the production machine is rolling full steam ahead, almost completely insulated from the digital descent.
This is the ultimate corporate stamp of approval, isn't it? A huge multi-year investment in long-form storytelling. And our sources confirm, key casting decisions are being locked in. It's moving from concept to reality. We've got the new faces for the iconic trio, Dominic McLaughlin as Harry, Arabella Stanton as Hermione, and Alistair Stout playing Ron.
But it's the veteran star power they're bringing in that really gives it that prestige feel, isn't it? We're not talking about unknowns filling out the cast. We're talking names like John Lithgow, Janet McTeer, Nick Frost as Hagrid.
Absolutely. And the ensemble also includes Papa Sidhu, Johnny Flynn, Bill Powley playing Dursley, plus other really strong UK talents like Luke Thallon and Paul Whitehouse. The fact that these established, high-profile actors with choices, are signing on, fully aware of the controversy around the creator, it says a lot about the perceived artistic value or maybe the career boost they think this offers.
Okay, now let's get into that specific, kind of fascinating internal conflict example. Papa Sidhu. He's known for having very public, very vocal pro-trans views, and yet he's in the cast. He stays on the project despite Rowling's stance. How does that work?
Well, it's a perfect illustration of complex production reality versus, say, the simplified conflicts you see on social media. You have this critically acclaimed actor known for strong progressive views working directly on a project that financially benefits the writer he fundamentally disagrees with on a key social issue.
But wait, if Sidhu is strongly pro-trans and Rowling is, known for her critical view, how does a massive production like HBO manage that? Isn't that a huge PR headache, a risk they're taking on?
It is a potential headache, sure. But the source material notes that Rowling herself actually confirmed she wouldn't seek to fire him. She essentially drew a line. Personal belief, professional. For HBO, for the production company, the priority is lecturing the best possible talent, maintaining the artistic integrity needed for what they hope is a multi-million-dollar. So they seem to be prioritizing creative over, let's say, political purity. And so far, whatever controversy exists around Sidhu's involvement hasn't derailed the production.
So the reality on the ground is that people with profoundly different public stance are required to collaborate to make this huge thing. That's a nuance totally lost in the camp.
Precisely. And you see similar dynamics playing out on the audio side of things. Those new full cast audios coming to Audible, they're also attractive. And those actors are facing scrutiny, public criticism, but they're proceeding with the project regardless.
The cast list for those is also pretty incredible. Michelle Gomez, Hugh Laurie, Matthew Mafadian, Riz Ahmed, and Keira Knightley is playing Professor Umbridge. These are A-list.
They are. And they've presumably weighed the potential backlash against the professional opportunity, the creative challenge, and they've chosen the opportunity.
Knightley and Gomez actually addressed the criticism publicly, didn't they?
They did. Both essentially stated their personal support for inclusivity while emphasizing that the project itself, the role, offered an irresistible creative draw. It just proves that even as the controversy swirls, the pull of playing a canonical Wizarding World character is strong enough to bring in major high-caliber talent.
Hard to effectively cancel a project when top-tier industry professionals keep lining up to join it.
Indeed. The only real note of personal distancing we see mentioned comes from the classic narrator, Stephen Fry. He reportedly called Rowling a lost cause on trans issues in an interview, while still saying he loved the book. But even as he personally distances himself, the new high-profile audiobook with its star cast moves forward. Its popularity seems...
Okay, let's pivot now to maybe the more human side of this whole saga, the very public rift among the original film cast members. Our source material details this sharp division that really started around 2020 and has just deepened. It's a key, often pretty painful part of the franchise's story in 2025.
Yeah, this is arguably the most complex, most emotionally charged piece of it. You have actors who literally grew up on those film sets. They formed deep bonds with the creator, who many saw as a kind of literary mother figure, and now they're forced to navigate this incredibly public philosophical disagreement with her. It's messy.
That recent exchange involving Emma Watson back in September 2025, that really highlighted how difficult it is to find any middle ground, didn't it?
It was like watching someone try to walk a tightrope that just instantly snapped. Watson was on a podcast reflecting on her relationship with Rowling. She tried to balance gratitude with her disagreement. She said, and this is the direct quote our sources picked up, "I can love her. I can know she loved. I can be great. I can know the things she said are true and hurt. I can never..."
So, an attempt at nuance, acknowledging the hurt caused by the statements, but refusing to join the cancel effort. And Rowling's reaction was immediate.
Immediate and sharp. Fired back on X, formerly Twitter, called Watson ignorant of how ignorant she is, accused her of lacking real-life insight.
Wow.
Yeah. That public confrontation just poured fuel on the fire. It showed that even a careful, balanced, almost affectionate critique from someone she worked closely with for years was met with, well, extreme resistance from the author. It really highlighted the impossible binary that seems to exist in the digital public square now. Nuance often gets shouted down from both sides.
But the cast isn't united against her either, which makes it even more complicated. Let's look at the actors who've publicly supported Rowling, or at least defended her right to speak her mind.
Right. On one side, you've got Ralph Fiennes Voldemort himself. He's been defends her right to her opinion, called the backlash. Helena Bonham Carter, Bellatrix Lestrange, basically dismissed the whole thing as a load of bollock. She urged empathy for Rowling, said she was being hounded.
Jason Isaacs, Lucius Malfoy's similar line, supported her freedom of expression, even while saying he might personally disagree on some point. And Robbie Coltrane, Hagrid, before his passing, also said people should just let her have her opinions.
And you also see Evanna Lynch, Luna Lovegood, trying to walk that very difficult line, offering a nuanced defense of Rowling while also encouraging people to listen to trans voice. So this group seems to prioritize freedom of expression, maybe pushing back against the idea.
Okay, then the other side. The actors who have been vocal critics, often making very clear statements supporting the trans community. Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter himself, is the most prominent example. He wrote that widely shared essay for the Trevor Project back in 2020, affirmed transgender women are women, directly apologized to fans hurt by Rowling's comments, and he's reiterated that stance in 2025 interviews.
Yeah, and Rupert Grint, Ron Weasley, stated clearly he stands Bonnie Wright. Ginny Weasley tweeted support for trans people, for inclusivity, and significantly, Eddie Redmayne, the star of the Fantastic Beasts prequels, he disagreed publicly with Rowling while he was still actively starring in those films. Called her comments absolutely wrong back in 2020.
So it's a complete fracture, a deep personal split within that original Potter family. It really underscores how difficult this whole situation is on a human level. And then you have Tom Felton, Draco Malfoy, who seems to have tried to stay largely neutral, focusing more on fan unity, celebrating the IP itself.
It's the human cost, isn't it? This deep division. Yet, and this is the crucial point we keep circling back to based on the data, the franchise's commercial momentum just keeps rolling on, completely separate from that public personal conflict. The business seems to ignore the cast agreements, tears.
Which brings us right to our final section, examining the ultimate limits of this cancellation attempt. We need to look at the sheer intensity of the online anger and compare it directly to Rowling's resilience and, importantly, her very active, very well-funded legal pushback.
The online environment, yeah, the sources say it's escalated to pretty extreme level. Platforms like Bluesky are described as a hotbed for intense anti-Rowling. And we're not talking just disagreement, it's escalated beyond that.
How so?
Well, the sources detail users putting her on these informal hate lists. The rhetoric is alarming. Some users openly wishing death on her, or even on people perceived as allies, like Emma Watson after her comment. Anyone seen as taking a complicated stance can become a target. It really mirrors that broader trend where online disagreement can quickly spiral into genuine, sometimes dangerous threats.
And this is where Rowling's financial independence becomes essentially a legal war chest. She doesn't just sit back and take it. She actively fights back using the legal.
Right. She's endured years of credible death threats, serious enough to require ongoing. Just in 2025, she threatened legal action against Joe Madam, the founder of the Good Law Project, over specific claims.
And she has a track record of using her legal teams proactively and successfully. Back in 2020, she got that apology from the children's news site The Day for misrepresenting her views. She sued a fan over false claims about her family online.
She uses her wealth as both a shield and, well, a sword in these battles.
And critically, she keeps making public statements, like those supporting sex-based rights after that UK Supreme Court ruling back in April. Those comments draw intense fire, predictable outrage online. But what are the professional consequences for her?
Nothing. That's the point. Professionally, nothing seems to happen. The HBO reboot gears up, the brand deals keep rolling in, her professional standing, her commercial power remains completely unshaken by the online.
And this is a really important contrast. The cost of association with her, or even just the IP, seems to be very real for others, especially those without her level of wealth and independence. Looks highly asymmetric.
That's the crucial distinction the sources highlight. There are some painful examples. Troy Levitt, who was a developer working on Hogwarts Legacy, he left Avalanche Software back in 2021. Backlash over YouTube videos he'd made years earlier criticizing social justice movements. He paid a professional price for past content unearthed during the game's controversy.
And even more stark, Cara Lim, a community manager at Limited Run Game, fired in 2023. Activists targeted her, apparently, simply for following certain accounts on social media and liking Harry Potter content.
Yeah, reports suggest she was let go primarily due to that association, that perceived affiliation by online activists.
So while Rowling herself seems untouchable, people perceived as being on her side, or even just fans working in adjacent industries, they remain vulnerable targets. That must create a chilling effect.
It likely does. An environment of fear or caution for collaborators, definitely. Even as the big corporate machine, the IP engine itself moving forward seemingly unaffected.
Okay, so let's synthesize all this data. The record 34 million, dozens of major global brand deals, the HBO reboot steaming ahead, Rowling sustained legal defense. What's the ultimate finding here about the limits of Kent? Very high.
The source material seems very clear on this. Rowling's story basically highlights a fundamental limit case for modern cancel culture. Her combination of immense personal wealth, her complete independence from employers, and the sheer decentralized global reach of the Harry Potter IP. It makes her almost impossible to silence or to injure financially in any meaningful way. The core finding seems to be that a large enough segment of the audience has made an active choice, consciously or unconsciously, to separate the creation from the creator.
And the most maybe provocative analysis that runs through our sources is this core idea. The more people have tried to cancel J.K. Rowling, the more visible she has become. It suggests that every wave of controversy, instead of diminishing her influence, actually renews attention on her work, fuels the ongoing debate about free expression, and ultimately gives oxygen to the entire franchise, sometimes even directly boosting sales. The outrage machine, ironically, might be feeding her enduring visibility.
So you have these two dominant, almost warring forces constantly at play. On one side, this immense, still growing commercial power of a globally diversified, proven by things like the 34 million Hogwarts Legacy sales, the endless brand deals we list. And on the other side, you have this intensely personal human drama surrounding the views, the fractured relationships with her original stars, the very real hurt expressed.
So the key takeaway for you, listening to this deep dive, seems to be this. In this specific, incredibly high-profile case study, the sheer momentum of the cultural and commercial juggernaut has, so far, proven overwhelmingly stronger than the organized attempts at economic and social pressure. The money keeps flowing, the new projects keep launching, the audience keeps engaging, maybe even expanding.
Which leaves us with a important provocative question. As you consider the modern Howard, if the combined forces of widespread social act, high-profile, pretty sophisticated online, not significantly disrupt a billion-dollar beloved fantasy, what does this specific case study tell us about the cancel when it's applied to possess global property, has the power structure, immense wealth, and fundamental that perhaps